Who would your favourite villain be, Matt?
Favourite villain?
Yeah.
Mine's a fairly conventional choice. Would be the Joker.
Heath Ledger one, or just the Joker as
Well,
a character as a whole?
Joker as a character. The reason I would pick him was, and I've spoken about it a couple of times, I think, on the show, is sort of my turning point into a lot of superhero related things was the Tim Burton Batman, and sort of Jack Nicholson's Joker at the time I thought was amazing. I like the Joker's character because he's just a normal person. He's a normal person that's just come across whatever's happened. And the thing I like as well, so I'm going to ramble a bit with this, but the Heath Ledger Joker, it was very mixed up where he actually came from, and he kept telling these different stories as to what had happened to his face and these sort of things. There was that mystery. And then even, in the newer Joker, there's you've seen this horrible sort of, evolution into it. But he's a real person who's had a terrible time for whatever reason it's been. And a bit like you said, about the other character thinking he's doing something right. In a way, there's that sort of, he's creating this new life for himself at the detriment of everyone else. But he's sort of reborn into this character. And it's relatable is the wrong word for the Joker, but it's sort of, yeah, it's just down to earth sort of. I don't in terms of superheroes and things like that, I'm sometimes turned off by the huge fantasy sort of element to a lot of them. So yeah, that would be mine for that reason.
Do you think with the Joker as well? Again, there's an element. I mean, you and I went to see the Joker movie, the recent one, and there were times in that again where you felt sorry for him and you had that compassion for him. Whereas, but at the same time, he could spin it on its head and then flip out and kill people.
Yeah, exactly that. He's a relatable person. You can sort of empathise in certain aspects.
Yeah.
With him, but then it will be that pure mania that will come out, and you'll think, well, God, he's not a traditional. He's not super for any reason, really, apart from his own evil and. Do
you think that's one of the difficulties in picking, trying to narrow it down to just any one character? Because you've got, I mean, as you just described there, even with the Joker, of course, Joker is a huge character, recognised the world round. He's a pop culture icon, isn't he? But you think of all the different iterations of just that character, like just in comics for a start. Because I don't know if you're aware, there's a comic. It's been pushed back a few times. I don't know when it's coming out or if it's come out recently, and I haven't heard. But called Three Jokers, and the idea is that there's actually been three Jokers all along. And obviously, as you were just saying, we've had Nicholson play it, we've had Ledger play it, and now recently, more recently Leto and Phoenix.
Yeah.
And they've all been very, very different iterations of that one character. So I feel like you almost have to pick a certain iteration of whatever character it may be.
Yeah. We don't talk about Leto, okay?
I've never seen him as Joker. I did watch Suicide Squad. Yeah,
again, that was to the Joker.
That just didn't appeal, that whole film. But yeah, I think for me, when I was young watching Jack Nicholson as Joker, it was he's very loud and the purple and all that stuff. He was closer to the original sort of Batman TV series, wasn't he? But the one that really struck a chord was the Heath Ledger one. Just that intensity behind him, the unpredictability and the thing with a pencil. Let me show you a trick and sort of wax the guy's head into it, and that is. It's just incredible. Like, you were in awe of that character, even though you're slightly terrified by him.
But I think the Dark Knight series brought in a new wave, I think, for superhero movies, with regards to it being a little bit edgier and a little bit darker. No pun intended on the title of them, but it kind of probably reached an older audience, I think. Whereas I remember growing up watching the Batman movies then, and I can't remember them being as dark. You know, I mentioned earlier about Jim Carrey as the Riddler, or you had Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze or whatever he was.
Yeah.
You know. So the only one I can think of that was probably that sort of time would have been like Penguin, when God, who played Penguin? That was Danny DeVito, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and he was dark. I remember that being pretty creepy as a kid watching that, or a younger version of myself.
Yeah, but it was still, I guess, with. Sorry, mate. Go on.
I was just going to say, like the Dark Knight trilogy. I mean, I just love Christopher Nolan. Like, if there's someone I could sit down with and just have a conversation with. I mean, even him or his brother, to be honest, because they both, everything they do is just incredible. They take, you know, they always tell stories in different ways that you've probably not experienced before. You know, I'm really looking forward to seeing Tenet or Tenet, however you're meant to pronounce it. But yeah, I mean, the Dark Knight trilogy, as you were saying, it's more adult in the way it's set, but it's also at the same time not overly gruesome, or, you know, there's very little used in the way of sort of shock value, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you can totally understand why Bruce goes down the path he goes down, which, you know, a lot before then, I don't think the films had done a particularly good job of making you like Bruce Wayne, because you know, comic book films were just, you know, they were kind of throwaway, really. They weren't really proper films. Don't be wrong, I love them all. But
that's what I think the difference with the Christopher Nolan ones is, that he set out to make a really good film. It didn't matter what the subject matter was; he was making a really good film, and it was almost sort of incidental that it was fit into the genre of superhero movie. You know, it was in a world you could relate to. It was in a, you know, an environment that everyone could understand. It just so happened that one guy was a billionaire and the other one was a crazy. You know, that's it. They were just characters in it. It wasn't, oh, let's make a superhero movie. Let's, you know, everything's gonna be crazy in it. It was just a real film.
It was also very much like, you know, an ideological sort of struggle between those characters. It wasn't necessarily just them having a showdown and a 15-minute like CGI fight, you know. It's funny because as soon as, if you look at like the third one, Dark Knight Rises, a lot of people either don't like that one, or, you know, it's their least favourite, but it's actually the one that's probably the most like an actual superhero film. Out of the three, like, if you know, the first one, you know, being the origin, the second one being, you know, just a bit of a crime film, really. And the third one is kind of more of a superhero sort of themed film. What of him, you know, having his back broken and then having to climb out the pit, and, you know, it was
incredible guy.
Yeah, but, you know, it was him. I think Nolan sort of cracking, or trying to crack, really, the fact that, you know, if there was any criticism that people had of his films, I mean, I think unjustly, it was that, you know, it didn't feel like a superhero film. And I feel like the third one was him sort of trying to go a bit more that route. But yeah, I mean, they're just great films. They're probably three of my favourite films, all of them. They're just brilliant.